mic's
Can
on.
I offer you guys a water?
A nice view.
Sure.
We're good? All right, welcome. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to the Building and Scaling Authentic Mission Brands panel. We're lucky this afternoon to have three exceptional entrepreneurs. I'm going to introduce them ever briefly with the idea that you've been able to see their backgrounds. But to my left, I have Kristin Richmond, who's the co-founder and CEO of Revolution Foods. To her left, I have Eric Ryan, who is the co-founder of Ollie and is also the co-founder of Method Products. And then I have Rich Dennis, who's the founder and CEO of Sundial Brands. Full disclosure, Sundial Brands is a portfolio company of Bain Capital, where I work. I'm Greg Schell. I'm the co-managing director of the Double Impact Fund, Bain Capital's newest investment strategy. And I'd like to thank you all on behalf of all my colleagues at Bain Capital for welcoming us here. So with that, I'd like to start with a simple question of what does your brand mean? What do you intend for your brand to convey to your various customers? Kristin, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think first and foremost, Revolution Foods represents a brand that is changing a system for American families. We exist to offer access to healthy, fresh, affordable, delicious meals. We do that in two ways, but that is the key focus of the company.
Mm-hmm. Eric, how about you? You get just a few seconds to convey an emotion, a feeling, a sense of belonging to your customers. What is your brand intend? What do you intend for your brand to mean to your customers?
I've got two brands I get to talk about. Who here has used Method so far? Thank you. Who here has used Ollie so far? Awesome, upside.
Got some awareness. Awareness opportunities.
Exactly. So Method was really about ridding toxicity out of the home, and we did that by bringing the first to combine high design and deep sustainability. Ollie is really about trying to demystify that really confusing nutritional supplement aisle. And we do both through a pretty similar playbook, which is focusing on more of a millennial Gen X audience, completely transforming the product experience to be something that you have to use to you want to use, and driving a really meaningful social mission around it.
Rich, how would you answer that?
For us, it's one word, it's inclusion. Mm-hmm. So it's, for those of you that don't know, Sundial is a beauty company. So we do skincare and hair care products, and we like to say that our shampoo is more than shampoo. But it's inclusion. It's inclusion on the supply chain side. The women that are in our co-ops that harvest our ingredients, that they are included in a fairer economy, and they're included in opportunities to grow above the poverty line within their communities. And then on the consumer side and on the retail side is that all consumers are included in a beauty experience that is not precluding them from expressing themselves or from or that does not take into account their own unique need states, and focusing in only on one demographic as opposed to a broader demographic and an inclusionary one. So for us, it's inclusion.
We all make really basic things, basically baby food and soap.
Yeah.
Very simple.
It's actually a good preview into my next question. There's lots that are remarkable about all of you, but one of the most remarkable things for me is that you've founded disruptive companies in pretty basic industries, whether it's school lunch or vitamins or beauty. How did you know that there was such a big opportunity for even a basic, oftentimes slow-growing business, that you could be the sort of growthy new entrant into that sector? Yeah, please.
So very simply, we listened to families. My co-founder Kristin and I, 12 years ago, had the opportunity to start Revolution Foods, and it started with a very, very simple hypothesis that the food that we were feeding our kids in schools was not healthy, and it didn't respect them. And we heard this over and over again from the students we would interview, we would taste test with, the parents, the principals, the communities that we serve said, we're embarrassed by what we're serving our kids. We can do better than this. And we certainly believed, as former educators who saw the impact of nutrition on student and long-term health outcomes, that we could do better by our kids. So that was the genesis, and we've stayed true to that since day one.
Mm-hmm. Eric, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I had a very simple thesis about creating products, which was I really admired how Richard Branson would go in and find these like really boring categories and put a fresh spin on it. And in advertising, I worked with consumer motivations. And so my idea was to find a really big category, figure out the cultural shift it missed, and in between the space would be the business opportunity. So I was literally like walking the aisles of like Target and grocery stores. I started looking at household cleaning because it was so big and everything was so similar. So that was the clue, dig here. And as we dug in, Adam and I figured out there was 2 huge cultural shifts. There was lifestyling of the home. Nobody thought about these things as an emotional extension of your home, beautiful enough to leave out on the counter versus hidden away, out of sight, out of mind. And then we realized like, wow, like cleaning's a really dirty business. You pollute when you clean. You try to use poison to make your home healthier. And so we took those 2 cultural shifts of health and wellness and design and put it together. Similar thing with Ollie. I was working on the Made to Matter program for Target, which we partnered on. And we could not find what we thought was a really like-minded brand in nutritional supplements. So started to dig in and realized there was a cultural shift of how do you bring lifestyle into this space, and that was the business opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm. Rich, how did you know that the beauty industry needed a sundial?
I didn't. I mean, to just be very honest about it, I had no idea. I was, along with my family, just trying to figure out how to eat. I came from Liberia, graduated college. We had a civil war at home. I couldn't go home. My grandmother made different skin and hair preparations, sold in our village market, started making and selling it on the street in New York. But what we did learn was that people wanted to feel a part of the products that they were using on their bodies and in their hair. And they wanted to have a say, they wanted options, right? And so they'd come to us and say, hey, I love this with shea, but at home we use, so somebody from, Latin America would say, oh, but we use avocado. And my grandmother used avocado, this is how we used it. Can you make something with avocado? And then we'd put it in. And then the next day somebody would say, oh, I want coconut in this, but let me have a little bit of jojoba here, and that's how we sort of started realizing how underserved everybody was, right? So we had these tremendously large beauty companies or CPG companies that have focused in on serving consumers the way that the company feels that they should be served, or the way that their R&D departments feel that the consumers should be served, because they've got this great technology and now I'm going to create a problem because my technology solves it. And so we learned very quickly that people wanted something different and that they were underserved, and we've just focused on serving their underserved needs.
Mm-hmm. If you are an attendee of SOCAP, you are probably utterly convinced that mission enhances brand. I'm curious about how mission has enhanced brand. In particular, when you're first starting your company, you're taking something of a bet that consumer adoption will really be there for you. Maybe Eric, talk about, start with you this time. Talk about with both companies, how has mission enhanced your brand and enhanced your business opportunity?
Yeah, and I'm a big believer you brand from the inside out, and arguably your most important marketing person is your head of HR. And it's about getting the right people who align behind the mission, the values, and who are really motivated by that, in a sense bigger than just profit. There's a big belief that, to find real happiness, you have to be part of something bigger than yourself. And so that's what we try to create at Method, with the idea of people against dirty. And we always thought about, we're people for and against dirty. People against dirty are the people who go to work every day at Method and create the products under this mission. and they're also the people that we serve for. And we think of our customers not as transactional consumers. We think of them very much as advocates, because that's what you want to create, is people who are willing to advocate on your mission for your behalf. And so People Getting Sturdy has been wrapped up into everything we do in the organization. I think it serves us well from how it allows us to focus our business. It helps us attract talent we might not otherwise get, particularly at an early stage. And it makes decisions easy. We recently built our first plant, and by just following our sense of mission and values, we decided, okay, well, we're not going to put it in some cornfields out in the middle of nowhere. We're going to go where the jobs are needed. We're going to do inner city. We're going to make it the most sustainable manufacturing facility ever created. We're going to hire from the community. And it just, at the end of the day, it simplifies a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Just one more. You'd be, no doubt, a better company in a more important company for your mission. Are you a bigger company because of your mission?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, well, I think it creates a halo in a lot of positivity in a couple different ways. If you really get down to it, selfishly, it allows you to attract better talent. Yep. It allows you to motivate that talent in a more authentic way. It allows you to get, I'm here speaking, this is PR. At the end of the day, this is PR exposure. Hopefully, next time you guys are all at the grocery store, you're going to load up on Method. You're going to put it in strangers' carts. I'm here to sell soap. You get PR and marketing opportunities. You get consumers. They'll buy you because you're a great product, but they'll stay loyal to you because they believe in your cause. And it's that whole shift, particularly among millennials, to what it does to the why behind your business and your brand.
Yeah. Rich, how would you answer that? You've built an extraordinary business. Mission, no doubt, has enhanced it. I'm curious how your mission has played into your business opportunity.
Yeah, so I think, I'll piggyback off of Eric on the selfish part of it first, is it creates competitive advantage. It allows you to have a point of differentiation between your brand and, let's call them, the incumbents, and that you stand for something that they don't stand for, and that you mean something to people that they could never mean. So they can always outspend you in advertising, and they can always outmuscle you on the shelf, and there's all of these tools that they will always have, but they'll never have your mission, and they'll never have your values, and that creates competitive advantage, right? For us, I think our mission, as Eric said, our mission makes it very easy to make hard decisions, right? Because there are things that you will and that you will not do, and you understand very early on how they could impact your growth, how they could impact how big you could be, but it also gives you an opportunity to think about how else you can grow and how else you can be big. All with an eye on being meaningful and committed to who you are and what you are. And so I think that's allowed us to bring a lot of scale as we've sort of looked at what's next, where do we go, how do we go there. Easy decision making allows you to move faster, allows you to execute less things. So it really is, I think, a competitive advantage. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kristin, is it that easy? You have the right mission, you listen to the customers, as you've said, you get consumer adoption out of that, it's a competitive advantage. Is it that easy?
Well, I do agree with what's been said about the competitive advantage. I think there are things that aren't easy at all about building a growth company, but on the brand side, you guys are kind of summing up this concept of authenticity to me, and I think, in the world of Revolution Foods, give you 3 quick examples. When we talk about our retail business, where we're selling healthy family foods at grocery stores and about 4,000 grocery stores nationwide, I can't tell you the number of meetings I've been in with folks at Walmart, folks at Whole Foods, folks at Target, et cetera, who are searching for authentic brands that really, in our case, are trusted solutions for mom. And so that is really a differentiator when we're in there talking about our product line. And I've had folks say, it's great that you're pitching me this, but how quickly can you span across every category? Right. Because this brand and this concept and this trust has the ability to resonate with consumers in a much broader way. So Rich, to your point of it allows you to be bigger. So I think that's key. Again, for us, I'll use retail. every product we sell has a feeding good concept where a consumer knows that they're not just buying a delicious product that's good for them, but they're also supporting a company that is trying to drive positive health outcomes across schools in the US. So there's that connection, which again creates a loyalty that is a competitive advantage, I believe. And then internally in brand, agree 100% that some of the hard decisions for other companies are quite easy for us. So the number of times I've been out talking to schools who say, wow, we brought a partner in to serve food. We were so disappointed. They kind of pitched us one standard of food, and then 6 months later, we realized our kids were getting something entirely different. Yeah. At Revolution Foods, it couldn't happen because baked into who we are, the why of who we are, who we serve, are the fact that we're a one-gear company. Every child, no matter what zip code you're from, no matter how affluent you are, no matter what your skin color is, whoever you are, you will receive the same quality and food standards through Revolution Foods. There aren't 2 gears or 3 gears or 5 gears. So decisions like that are baked into the company's decision making around brand do become quite easy because you have a true north that really guides you.
Yeah, I think one of the hallmarks of great mission-oriented brands is that they have a really unique relationship with their customers. I wonder for our audience, would you really talk about how that relationship has worked with investors? To what degree is that relationship intimate or not? How much have you had to convince your investors that this is actually business enhancing to take this approach? Who wants to take that one first?
I think you should, since you guys are.
That's a great connection.
Let's get candid. How's it been?
Just FYI, I met Eric in the Target aisle maybe about 6-7 years ago. He was following me around, and we've adopted each other ever since, so thank you for that. For us in particular, we didn't have to convince our investors, right, as you know, because what we were looking for is what Bain was looking for, right? And Bain was looking for a partner that was focused on mission, and we were not going to change our mission in order to get a partner, right? And so that for us wasn't something that we had to navigate or negotiate or discuss, because we were looking for the same thing. And so I think if there's advice that I would give is make sure that you find a partner that you're aligned with around your mission, around their investing thesis, and that you guys are clear on how you're going to make money together through this mission, right? So for us, it wasn't a challenge. I have seen where it can be a significant challenge, and I think that happens when people aren't intellectually honest with what they're doing, right? And what they really care about, and and how they care about it, right? There's this sort of we love the business, we love the partners, and we'll figure out the rest of it as we go through it, right? And that's how you run into trouble. You need to figure it out up front, because it's not for everybody, but for those that are aligned on it and that get it, I think the returns, because you get the financial returns along with the personal satisfaction and the blueprints that we're all laying out here for people to come behind us and do it on a larger scale, probably faster than we've done it. That's where the true value is, and I think that's what people need to align with their partners on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for us, I don't think it was never an issue. I mean, we were really fortunate with Method, our early investors. They got it, they aligned, and then with Ollie, we only invited people in, and I think so much has shifted in the world of capital. I mean, you never expect Bain to be sitting here at this type of event, a few years ago, and I think now, it'd be harder to raise capital if you didn't have some sense of social mission. And probably one of the greatest ways to protect it is just become a B Corp, because ultimately, once you're wired in as a B Corp, the board mandate is to follow a triple bottom line.
Yeah. Kristin, how would you answer?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate at Revolution Foods as well in that we have put together, I think, probably one of the most values-aligned cap structure possible. But I think I have this saying I kind of maybe drive people crazy with in my world, but I truly believe that our values are our value, meaning that is what creates our value in terms of the values-based nature of our company. And I think every one of our investors truly believes that. And there's a little bit of and they've seen that, okay? So they don't just believe that, but they've seen sort of the growth and the valuation of the company and the growth of the brand reflect that. There's a little bit of a natural selection process, I would say, in terms of who you select and who you don't select. And I'm just going to go out there and say transparently, who doesn't select you when you're fundraising? You know, I think there is, in our case, we knew pretty quickly that this wasn't going to be a 5-year, build a rapid growth business and turn it around. I mean, we're trying to change a system for kids and families in this country. And that takes time and that takes commitment. And a lot of the investors that we've brought in and who've been a good fit for us, they get that as part of what they're getting into. The model, I always tell entrepreneurs, the model that you I'm talking about the financial model now, the financial model that you put in front of investors has to reflect your values. So again, for us, that is food costs that reflect no artificial anything. That is pricing that reflects serving urban school districts like DC Public Schools or San Francisco Unified, creating products that serve families in the US in an affordable way. So when you build those things into your model and you create a payback period and a return period that matches your strategy, you're very, very likely to connect with the right investors. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's there's a way you can really control this as well in the process, and we've, I think, gotten better and better at that over the years.
Mm-hmm. Rich, you said something earlier that I'm intrigued by. You said essentially that your competitors can outspend you in advertising and such, but they can't replicate your mission or your values. Yeah. I'm really curious about the competitive response that you've engendered, in the grocery aisles, as for you two, or sort of in the battlefields of, municipal budgets, which are really tight. How have competitors who probably were dismissive of you at the beginning, but then see your amazing growth and execution, I've got to think that they try to copy you, they try to replicate things that you're doing. Talk about some of the competitive response.
Yeah, well, first of all, this ain't for the faint at heart. All right, so let's just be clear.
What, competing against Procter & Gamble?
So for one thing, is you have to be grounded in who you are, right? I think at the core of it, if you're doing something, make sure you're doing it because it's what you really believe in. And if you're going to do that, right, you really believe in it, and it's not something that is, well, this will be cool to do, and I'm going to flip it in 2 years and walk away. So if you're going to take them on, you've got to make sure that you're committed to that. I think they can, as I said, they can outspend, they can outmuscle, there's a ton of different tactics that they are accustomed to using when competing against each other, right? What they're not accustomed to competing against is emotion, right? What they're not accustomed to competing against is love, right? And true connectivity around what it is that you're doing. And so if you're able to leverage that, if you're able to stay focused and deliver against that, then I think you can compete, and then the dollars don't necessarily matter as much. They always matter, but they're not going to matter as much because you're appealing. There's a difference in appealing to somebody's head and appealing to their heart. You really win when you appeal to both their head and their heart. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as I said, we both make soap, which was really innovative about 150 years ago.
Yeah. We're just more like 200 years ago.
We're just a little late. But we compete against not only some of the world's largest multinationals, but we compete against the world's first multinationals in the form of like Unilever and Procter & Gamble, who I like to call P the motherfucking G.
Yeah.
And
That was unexpected.
they've really done a beautiful job of locking up a lot of retail distribution. And what we're all doing was not possible 20 years ago because it was impossible to get shelf space. And now today, thanks to social media, everybody's in the grocery business, from Amazon to convenience stores. So there's so many more ways to enter and then compete. So we're seeing such a radical shift.
Absolutely.
And I think so to your point of like our social mission is the thing that really drives the authenticity that makes it so much harder for them to come after us through a consumer lens, but also retailers, like we all have really unique relationship with retailers because at the end of the day, they emotionally fall in love with our mission too and our people, and they'll never admit it, but they're also rooting and helping us to be successful.
And I think the other thing to add to that is innovation, right? So we live in a world where, 20 years ago, as Eric said, we probably couldn't be doing this the way that we're doing it, right? But we live in a world today where the playing field has been leveled from a technology perspective. The cost of technology has come down. The advent of social media and the ability to get your message out in a loud way at a lower cost, right? So I think those factors really help us. And then being small and nimble and going after people that and categories or subsets of categories that the big guys have always thought, it's fringe, it's too small, it's right, and starting there and working your way up towards the categories that they find value in, I think is a big part of why we're all able to do what we're able to do. We're more nimble, we're faster, we're more connected to the consumer, we care about what we're doing. And can you imagine Peter the motherfucking G coming out and saying, yo, I really care about you and how you feel and what you're doing? And they won't do that, right? They can't do that. And so we get an opportunity to be genuine in what we're doing, and our consumers get an opportunity to connect with that.
Someone tweet that out, please. It's obviously a thing, and I didn't know it, but please, I see you. Kristin, how have your customers reacted to you when I've got to believe it's jarring to be replaced, in a contract that you've had for a number of years, and someone claims to be able to do what you've done, healthier and cheaper, and kids will like the school lunch better. How have your competitors responded to that?
We've had such an interesting journey on that front, and I do agree with you on innovation. It's one of the highlights of being kind of a younger, more nimble company, is seeing the innovation wheel spin so much faster than most of the bigger companies out there. It's a huge benefit. But on the school meal side, Greg, to answer your question, it's been such an interesting journey because for a decade, so we're going into our 11th school year, we were the small guy or gal. Folks would come in and just undercut pricing to the nth degree, but weren't nearly as committed to the quality that we would serve. But we really stayed true to our mission. We doubled down on building the only clean label, all natural, no artificial anything supply chain in the K-12 industry. And so what is such a painful journey ends up a decade later putting us in a competitive position where when a school asks for quality, we actually can do it more affordably than anybody else. So you kind of stick with those values, and it's painful at times. We've lost a lot, but you get to a point where you're effective at advocating that health is important in schools, which many of you know, your educators, your parents. Educators believe that, right? They all want what's great for kids. So people like the First Lady, the standards or the expectations for kids rise, and then we're becoming more scalable, more affordable, more scalable, more affordable. And we're at this place after 10 years where we're truly competitive across the board. So we're in a nice place right now. We've also had a if you can't beat them, join them moment where we've had some of these big, older food companies just say, we're not good at this.
Yeah.
Will you guys partner with us, right? We know how to manage labor, or we know how to, drive to the bottom line. We can manage P&L as well, but we're not healthy food product design companies, and we've really focused on building a kid-inspired, chef-crafted product design company when it comes to healthy meals. And so there's a lot of that dynamic going on right now, which is it's fun to be in that place and decide how we want to partner, where we want to partner, how we can have more impact, because we're now at a place where we're more scaled.
I'm sure there's some entrepreneurs in the crowd, but many of us have never built a successful business in the way that you three have. Let us into that moment where you first knew what you were doing was working.
God, I can't wait for that to come.
I know. Like, when does that come, Greg?
Soon come. Yes. Give me a couple more years.
A couple more years.
Waiting for it.
Yeah, I love that.
No, for me, it's the moments with students and with schools. It's launching in New Orleans into an environment where the meals that kids were being served were leaving them literally hungry. And getting emails unsolicited in my inbox after 2 weeks of service saying, oh my gosh, my kids are not hungry. They're in class, their bellies are full, they're focused, they're engaged. This is amazing. And those are the moments for me. It's not the, PR and such. It's those moments that make me feel like we're doing it. We're doing it.
Was there a moment where you thought to yourself, we're winning, there's a lot of work to be done, but we're onto something?
No. I guess I just don't think that way. I think the moment that, and it's probably a very recent moment that I realized how important the work that we're doing is, and how it's changing the beauty landscape for sure, and how it's impacting is, one of our retail partners said, hey, would love for you to come and spend a couple hours here with us. And I said, why? And I said, well, I can't tell you, but we'd love you to come out, and set a date and came out. And they said, well, we've gone out to all the big guys, and here's what this one says we should do, here's what this one says and says, so take a look at it and then come back and tell us what you think we should do. And that's a moment of validation that says, as a small company, a young company, but one that's connected and that has a mission that our retail partners are buying into. And the other thing that we didn't talk about, so there's innovation, which I think is great, but I think the other thing, and the reason that the retailers root for brands like ours and brands with a mission, is the differentiation, right? Because they can talk about something different. When the big guys bring innovation, everybody gets the same innovation. It's a matter of, do you want it in a 13 ounce or you want it in an 8 ounce, right? But it's the same thing versus what we do for them. So I think that was truly a moment of saying, not only are we competing, but our ideas are respected, right? At the same levels as anybody else's ideas. Yeah. But I'll let you know when I think we're winning.
But I think that's our attitude too. Is like you're always paranoid, but every time, and it's, I think we all consider our businesses startups, even though, and we compete against these just ginormous organizations that were still kind of a pimple on the industry. But it is that attitude of like, there's always another hill to climb.
When you think about you've all referenced what it means to compete against these really large competitors. You've also discussed areas that they may be weak or vulnerable that you've been able to exploit. When you think about the top 1 or 2 challenges that you have on a day-to-day basis, what's the thing that you tend to worry about the very most?
Well, I'm always focused on team development. So I know you talked a bunch about team, and just one last point on when are we winning. My other moment of feeling a little bit of that is when we see our team grow and succeed, and when we see jobs created in spots that there weren't jobs before. That's just another piece of getting to build a business that is truly an honor every day. But I think a lot about team, and I think about the fact that we are growing quickly, and that just inherently puts it's great for job creation. I mean, we can create, I like to say, not jobs but career paths for people in communities across the country that are very underserved. But you can grow. We have grown very quickly, and I think as an entrepreneurial organization, you tend to be founded by folks who are kind of, we'll walk through walls, we'll do everything, we'll get it done. And so now Revolution Foods at 2,000 employees is at a place where we're actually entirely focused on empowering and training every level of the organization so that we're truly sustainable moving forward. And we have processes that help us be successful, that are not dependent on handfuls of people, but really driven from every area of our production. We don't quite have the investment to do that right now. We don't quite have the training programs to do that right now. We don't quite have the bandwidth that we need to do it as well and as fast as I would want to. And so I think the pressure that growth creates around the right infrastructure, the right systems, the right training and development for your team is a place where I always want to see us doing a better job than we're doing. And so for me, that's just a constant area of focus.
Eric, how would you answer?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you worry about. Maybe one kind of simple piece of advice that I do is I always think about what's most likely going to kill us right now, growing too fast or growing too slow.
Yeah.
And always trying to make sure that the pace, the cadence, and it's arguably the biggest mistake I made with Method, and Adam and I, at one point, we grew too fast. And you can easily get a little naive when things are going well, that they're going to keep going well. And ultimately, there will be recessions, there will be competitive threats, there will be self-inflicted wounds that will catch up with you. And that was probably one of the biggest things I learned, is just figuring out always what is the right way to throttle the company.
Yeah.
Eric, I want to stay with you for a second, just in terms of the whole notion of exit. Can you hear me?
We lost you.
Did we lose?
I can hear you.
I
No one else can.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the notion of an exit. For a lot of impact companies, once you do get it right, it can be hard to leave, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Hard to think about what comes up, after that. You have the unique experience of having achieved an exit with Method. I wonder if you'd all just address what it would mean to finally achieve an exit, if you ever intend that, for something that you've built from scratch.
Yeah, did everybody hear the question? Okay, so the question's around the basically exiting the company and that process, and how do you build for something that you ultimately sell. So our story with Method is, we took outside capital, and with that comes, of course, you need to return that capital, and they don't pay you enough to ultimately pay back. And Adam and I fundamentally believe that we never saw it as an exit. We just saw it as a recapitalization of the company at the right time. And we did not want to be in a position where we sold to another company that would no longer run this as a separate company, or would be in any way not support our values and our mission. So we ultimately sold the majority of the company to a family out of the UK in their capital group, which allowed us to maintain every job, invest more in building a plant, and just maintain the independence of the organization. And now it's, we're really proud of the way we were able to kind of stick the landing on that transition. I think of Method now as it's like having grandchildren. Like, I get to do all the fun stuff. I can do no wrong. I get to help them but cheer them on. And then with Ollie, I'm right back in the startup grind, which I really enjoy, that like early stage blank sheet of paper, trying to figure it out. And with Method, we have like so many great, smart, talented people. I was like, you guys don't need me every day. Like, you're in great shape. And so for me, it was the ability with Method to be able to like stay involved with this company, brand, and organization I love so much, but then take on new challenges in my career.
Yeah. Rich, how do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I think, so I'll touch on your earlier question about what keeps me up. Execution, right? So we're in this place of where we're growing rapidly, and what makes us us is the ability to execute at a high level, and that bar gets raised every day. So I think it's execution, and in order to execute, you need great people, right? Like you said, and how do we bring in great talent, indoctrinate that talent into the culture, into the values, while trying to maintain the growth rate and execute against the initiative. So I think those are the two things, and I think every entrepreneur has different things that keeps them up. But I would say probably the thing that I've learned is that the most important thing is execution. And in order to execute, you need the people that can do it, because you can't do it all yourself, right? And come from this place of where I thought I could do it all myself, and that doesn't work. And so, but as far as exit is concerned, it's not something that I, as I said, Eric and I know each other for a long time, all right, and we see each other.
Brothers from a different mother.
Exactly, without a doubt. I mean, we see each other maybe 6-7 times a year, right? And every conversation, when we're not bullshitting, is about all the things that are going wrong and that could go wrong. I don't think we've ever had a conversation about the things that are going right and how we're crushing it, right? I don't think we've had one of those conversations, right? He sold his company, we didn't celebrate. I took on partners, we didn't celebrate. All we talked about was what could go wrong, right? And this is all the things that could go wrong. So, so I'll spend some time talking to him about what went right about his exit. But for me, I think it's still so early for us. We've got a great partnership. We've just started that partnership. It's almost a year, not quite a year. And we've got a tremendous amount of runway in front of us. The good thing about us is that when it's that sort of making sure that you're aligned and being intellectually honest with your partners around what it is that you want to do. We were both very clear on what we wanted to do, and we gave ourselves options so that if I wanted to go a different direction, we have a path for that. If they wanted to go a different direction, we have a path for that. So we gave ourselves the option to be able to think about when we want to, how we do it, so that one doesn't upset, if you will, the needs of the other. And I think that's something that's important to think about up front as you're aligning and as you're partnering, is to make sure, let's talk about the exit. What does it look like? At some point, we have to do it. But what does it look like, right? And for us, we have the options of doing many different things where we don't, have to just sell and walk away, or we can sell and walk away. But we have those options. And I think that's the advice, is just make sure you give yourself the optionality. Don't wait to do a partnership. Don't wait too late to do a partnership to the point of where you don't have options, right? Make sure that you've thought about it and you do it before you need to do it, so that you have the options that you would want to have down the road.
Before I let Kristin answer, I'm going to just ask the audience to begin to queue up your questions, and I'll throw it to you. Kristin, have you allowed yourself the opportunity to think about when you might exit?
So I actually agree with you. I despise the word exit. I think it's nothing against your question, Greg.
I feel like I want to ask the question a different way.
No. And the reason.
Have you thought about a recapitalization?
So here's what I think about, and really,
because exit's never a good thing.
If you're an entrepreneur like me who is trying to build a brand that is going to lead, in our case, lead the conversation in this nation around family nutrition in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. My vision is like way long game. And so what we would typically classify as exit is just, to me, one step in the process of getting, moving from earlier stage investors to later stage investors, moving from later stage investors to an IPO or a recap, thinking about how we create that process to fuel the company for success and impact. That's how we think about it. And I firmly believe that if you build a great company any option will be there.
Yeah.
So if we build a great company, we can take the company public. If we build a great company, we can find a unique M&A option that,
Absolutely.
could provide an independent, great spot to grow and flourish. If we build a great company, we can recap with amazing, private equity investors, if that's the way we want to go. So I do firmly believe that that's sort of eye on the prize. And then those paths emerge when you need to take that next step. Now, there are realities around, hey, if you want to think about an initial public offering in 2 to 3 years, you need systems, you need, FP&A, you need governance in place that allows for that. So, we're always looking at, to your point, Rich, how to create those options around but again, you could just argue that's just building a great company to have those systems in place that allow you to have options. So that's how we think about it, and my mind is always on what's the best path for Revolution Foods to lead that conversation and continue to have the growth and impact that it can have longer term.
That's great. What questions do we have out in the audience? We have one right here.
Hi, my name's Corinne Clinch, and I'm from Roris. You guys mentioned being so ambitious you forget to celebrate, which we also have that problem. We laugh at ourselves constantly that oh great, we did this one thing, now we have 8 more things to replicate. And so I was curious if you had anything about, any advice about how to not let that get in the way of the mission or not let that ambition exhaust your team internally. I don't know if you had any comments on it.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little hard to hear. Just I didn't quite catch the.
I was just curious if you had any comments on how to be ambitious and celebrate appropriately for continuing on for your mission.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like the secret of life or happiness, right? Is you're supposed to be satisfied and grateful for what you have, but yet stay driven and challenged. And so if you've got advice on that, I'll take it. We definitely try to celebrate. Like at Method, for example, there's a Monday huddle, all company meeting. A different person runs the huddle. We stole the idea from Innocent Juice in the UK years ago.
We stole it from you.
I'm gonna steal it now.
You gotta steal it. It's really good.
And a feature of that is the Values Award, where you just got to write a story and you read the story and they spin a wheel. So we just look for even little ways like that to be able to celebrate. We do a Method prom every year. Yes, there's a full prom committee. No work gets done for 2 weeks. So we've baked in ways that we will continually always be able to celebrate and reward and recognize when you get really busy, and then balance that with just staying, constantly hungry for the next thing. But I'm trying to figure out that secret for myself of life of be satisfied but stay driven.
Other thoughts and questions? You have one?
Hi, my name is Aditi. I'm from Impact Hub Berkeley. I wanted to ask about throttling a company's growth, and if you had any kind of signs that tell you things are happening too fast or too slow, and hacks to get past that. Thanks.
I missed the word before company growth. Did you say measuring or monitoring company growth?
How do you know when you're going too fast or too slow, right?
Yeah.
What are the signs?
Yeah, well, this is a question that we ask all the time, and certainly to your point around execution, we've got to be able to execute with quality on what we take on. And very transparently, over the course of 10 years, we've been in places where we've taken on way too much. One of them involved me moving my family across the country for 2 months with the newborn. Things like that, where you're like, ooh, I learned from that one, But then, understanding for us, we've always been in high growth mode because impact for us has to do with that scale. But I do think it's really important to kind of constantly look at, where can I grow to have the impact I want to have? What's the growth rate? But where's the organizational competency level to deliver quality on what you're taking on? So we look at that almost on a daily, weekly basis, and you can tell because you set key metrics and milestones for yourself to see if you're executing properly on what you've taken on. And then, one of the hardest things is having the kind of courage and prioritization to pull back a little bit and say, okay, we're a little more distracted than we should be. We need to really focus in. We had a moment, I'll just give you guys an exact example. On our side, we took on elder care meals for a while, and we thought, oh, this is great for the mission. We can use our pantry. There's so many folks who need these meals. Wasn't a good decision for the business. We weren't able to execute with focus. We delivered on it, but it kind of killed us in the process. So we scaled back, got more focused, kept going. But I think it's that kind of rigor around reflection on great execution and staying on brand that can also help you determine the right growth rate piece.
I saw a question here and then here. Right here first, sorry.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Ragsdale with EcoSavvy Networks, and my question is, with packaging and with people, how do you maintain brand, particularly with people who are slightly external to your core group?
Sorry, it's really hard to hear up here.
It's really hard to hear, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Try without the microphone. We might be able to hear better.
My question is that, there you go. My question is on, you have your mission, and then you have packaging, and you have contractors and people around your business. How do you stay true to the mission with those folks and with those externalities?
I'd say, one thing we've always done is because we try to really define the culture, the values, the mission, like we'll have, very simple even booklets. So anytime we're working with an outside partner, whether it's an agency or a one-off contractor, we always make sure we bring them into the values. And even the way we work with retailers in a retail meeting when we're collaborating, we'll really try to set the table with how we work as an organization and ask them, here's our expectation when you work with us. And I think people generally really appreciate it, and it gives them confidence because they know exactly what you expect out of them. I think it's simple as that. I don't know if you guys have other advice.
I think that's great.
We'll take three more. I see one here.
Come on, really juicy question. Like, how does a bald man know his shampoo is any good?
Right there.
He grows a beard.
Yeah, right here. Yes.
Hi, sorry. My name is Manal. I'm the co-founder of Eat Off Beat, a catering business based in New York, entirely operated by refugees. My question is, as mission-oriented companies, did you ever felt like you were in a situation where you needed to avoid the pitfall of taking advantage of the same, communities or cause that you were trying to serve? Was that ever a challenge to you, or?
Yeah, so that for us is never a challenge, right? Because it's mission before brand, all right? And if you're thinking that way, then you're not necessarily, then you avoid those pitfalls, right? But if you're thinking, hey, if I did this, I could do this for my brand, then that's where I think those dilemmas come in and people make decisions. Now, to be clear, we're focused on building and driving an efficient, extremely profitable business. That's why we're here. We can't support those other initiatives if we're not doing that, right? But we won't make decisions that sacrifice the people that we're trying to help in order that we may push the brand forward.
I saw one over here.
Hi, my name is Emma, and I'm an MBA candidate focused in social enterprise. So I'd like to know, so you all have inspiring brands, and I'm just interested to get down to, your personal story in terms of, what was the toughest compromise you've had to make along the way in building these brands and in terms of maintaining that mission? Thank you.
On the personal side?
Go ahead, Kristin.
So sorry, on the
Toughest compromise.
Personally, you're saying no, like.
Yeah, in regards to your brand, so your personal mission or your brand's mission.
I was going to say, between my co-founder and I, we've had 5 babies in 10 years, so that has required a lot of crazy toggling. Gosh, I mean, I sort of go back to what Rich said on that. I mean, in terms of having a true north and a focus. We haven't, actually, I was talking to Kristin, my partner, about this morning. I mean, we haven't had any sort of places where we've really felt like we needed to make a decision that would have compromised our mission, because, again, our mission has been so tightly tied to our business development, the value we're building in the company, the differentiation of the company. So it's been aligned. Now, things have required more capital than we thought to build. They've taken longer than we thought to build. So those are things that we've had to adjust to along the way. One thing that just killed me at one point was we had parents saying to us, we love the food you guys are serving in schools. I'm a mom who works 2 jobs. I come home, I don't have time to cook. How do I get this food home to my kids at dinner? Because I know it's healthy, I know it's affordable, and I trust it. And we couldn't do it fast enough. It took us 4 years to get that business plan together to be able to serve parents as well as students. And so just, but we didn't want to distract ourselves from doing a good job of where we were at the time. So I'd say there have been timing, capital, sort of process and ops, tough decisions that we've had to make, but nothing that, all in the spirit of keeping that mission on brand.
I'm going to take one more because I said I would. Forgive me for all the other questions that are here.
Hi, my name's Tony. I'm an attorney. I work with a lot of social enterprises, public benefit corporations. And a lot of my clients come and ask me when they're structuring their company, how do you think about how much equity you should be giving to people? And how do you think about compensation generally when you're trying to create a mission-driven company? And I'm wondering how the 3 of you think about inequality and compensation and how that works as part of your brand and your company. Like, if you have any kind of guiding principles in thinking about some of these issues.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I believe everybody should be an owner, because you want everybody to act like an owner, and to do that, they should have an equity incentive. So it's something that both companies we put in place very early. We're not building for any sort of liquidity transaction with Method. The goal is to just independently forever. So we put an ESOP program in place, so it allows everybody to continue to have ownership, but with predictable liquidity. And I just got today, they launched the interface, so you can see your options, what's vested at any time, what it's currently its worth is, and I'm amazed because it brings incredible transparency to the idea of equity inside an organization.
I'm going to ask that we cut it there. I see that our time is up. We could have stayed here for a lot longer. The 3 of you are fabulous. We're all inspired by what you've done, and please, audience, join me in thanking them.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.